So anyway, I'm gonna do something today. I want to talk about the different vampires in fiction. Fiction meaning, TV, movies, maybe books. I had a lot of different talks with a lot of different people, and we were like comparing vampires in, say, different TV shows and movies and such, and especially in TV shows. So I am Master Locks, your now disembodied voice for this channel, and I want to tap on that for a minute. So when people hear or see vampires in reality, they instantly think of a book or a movie or a TV show and automatically compare anything vampiric to that. This is because they figure they just know what makes a person a vampire, or they think they know vamps. People usually do this to make themselves feel good, or just to be able to argue that vampires don't exist in real life. Thanks to the media. Fuck you, media. So just to make those people feel like they're right, just to let those people think they have a voice, and to show others where those vampire critics get their info from, and because I'm way past due for another video, here's a list of some of the different types of vampires in media, aka your favorite books and TV shows and movies. Starting with television. So number one, I'm gonna call these the lurks. This is what I've gotten from the internet, because internet is life. The lurks were the original name for the vampires from the Buffy and Angel TV shows. So I guess the Buffyverse, the Buffy universe. Damn, Angel was a good show. Anywho, at first the vampires in this universe were just demons that could only exist on this plane or earthly plane by taking on or using the human body. But they needed to take good care of that body in order to keep using it. And it seems like that idea kind of died out during the show's run. Feeding on blood was how they kept their body from decaying or breaking down, the same way people need to eat for the body to function properly. The better the vampire kept this up, the better, stronger, and faster they would be or become, and hence the longer they would live. So, characteristics of a lurk from the Buffyverse. As with most vamps in general, lurks had typical animalistic traits and animalistic behaviors when vamped out or in vamp mode. The muscles in their face change, making them look much more monstrous or demonic. Visible sharp teeth, upper incisors, laterals, and canines. These characteristics also show when they're angered or aroused, though older and more experienced vamps can show their vamped out face at will. Much older experienced lurks from this universe, or the ancients, if I remember correctly, that's what they were called, seem to be stuck in this vamp form and can't turn back to looking like a human. Can't have that same human appearance anymore. Seemingly more animalistic and less intelligent when they become too hungry. They can't cast a reflection in a window or mirror, but can be photographed or video recorded. I don't know, television. They don't breathe, though some of them like to smoke. And all of them could talk. Both smoking and talking requires breathing. So, I don't know, television. They can be shocked or tased, and they can be affected by drugs and even sedated. Other than the typical splinter to the heart that never beats again once they become a vamp, by the way, lurks can be killed by beheading, burnt with fire or sunlight, all of which turns them to dust immediately. Even their clothes turn to dust because television. They can't enter a person's home without being invited. Some sort of invisible bubble bounces them back out if they try. But once invited in, the invite can only be revoked by some sort of magic spell. Lurks can enter someone's home freely if that person is also a vampire, or the owner of the home passes away. They also become incapable of feeling any emotions at first, due to not having a soul. If some sort of spell gives that vampire back his soul, after they've been a vampire for some time, they're usually overwhelmed with remorse or sadness for all the people they hurt or killed in order to feed. And most of the time they go into depression, then they usually become one of the good guys, like Angel and Spike. As far as turning goes, turning someone requires a person to drink the blood of that vampire. A lurk vampire biting during a turning or a siren seems to be just a force of habit or a sensual thing, like cats when they bite the back of the female's neck. Animals. The actual being bit is not what turns somebody into a vampire in this universe. And the time it takes to rise as a full-fledged lurk vampire varied from time to time on the show. Some abilities the vamps have on different TV shows vary. So I'm gonna get into some of the abilities. The stereotypical superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, and durability that comes with most vamps. Heightened senses of a typical animal, smell, hearing, night vision. Accelerated healing, sharp fangs, immunity to telepathy, immunity to disease, And if one has some sort of disease as a human, they won't have it no more once they become a vamp. Immortality, again, if they kept themselves healthy. Claws and ageless, meaning they will always look the age they were when they got turned. So those are the lurk vampires from the Buffy universe, the Buffy and Angel universe. Number 2, the True Bloods, because I know millions of y'all love this show. From what I can remember, there wasn't like a scientific or special name for these type of vampires. They were just vampires. But if I'm wrong, the comment section is down there. A vampire in this universe is a sentient, reanimated corpse that also needs blood to survive or keep their body from breaking down. Characteristics of a True Blood. A maker or sire always has a certain amount of control over their progeny due to some magic bond between vampire and human. The calling. A maker or the sire can call a progeny by saying their name out loud, causing a progeny to become aware that the maker is calling out for them. The progeny should feel a chill and can tell where the maker is. That's interesting. Commanding. A maker or a sire can force the progeny to do anything they want as long as they say, "As your maker, I command you," because the thought of commanding someone to do something crazy or creepy or illegal wouldn't happen. Strength. Just want to note that the strength increases with age when it comes to vampires in this universe, and makers are always stronger than their progenies. Empathic link. A maker can sense any pain or distress the progeny feels. The maker will also know if a progeny has died. And releasing. If a maker says, "As your maker, I release you," just like saying, "As your maker, I command you," the progeny will be released from the maker-progeny bond, and it cannot be controlled anymore. Following the release, the maker can still call the progeny, but the progeny can ignore or not answer the call. Some other characteristics, some of which here are interesting, some are typical and I've already said them. There is no vamp mode or beast mode with anger or feeling sad or trying to be intimate or whatever. They always look like they did when they were human. This makes it easy for them to blend in with people. Maybe a minor palish look to their skin because their blood doesn't flow anymore. Unlike lurks from the Buffyverse, the fangs are only on the lateral teeth, which can extend or retract at will, like Wolverine's claws. Side note, their fangs are literally behind their normal lateral teeth. They don't become the lateral teeth. This hides the points of the fangs until the vampire wants to show them. Some True Bloods can turn their eyes red as well. They have much colder body temperature than humans. They can't get pregnant or impregnate a female. Interesting. Only liquid their bodies are supposed to produce is blood, so they can't even sweat. When they cry, they literally cry blood. Also, unlike lurks from the Buffyverse, True Bloods can't digest normal foods. If they try, they would throw it back up. I'm glad I don't have that problem. They also don't need to breathe, but do so at will, just when they want to smoke or probably out of habit. They can be killed by the typical kill us vampire ways. Sunlight, fire, toothpick to the heart, beheading, not feeding or taking care of themselves. And once turned, True Blood vamps become unable to forget. This means faces, info numbers, past relationships, etc. That will drive a person crazy. Turning or siren. If I remember correctly, a True Blood vamp has to drain a lot of a person's blood, then have them drink a lot of their own blood to replace it. Then they both have to sleep in the ground. I don't know, television. By the next night, the person will rise as a new vampire. At this point, the new vampire will be extremely thirsty or hungry and will need to feed immediately to survive. During the time that they're asleep in the ground, this is where the person technically dies and where the bond between sire, or maker is what they call them on the show, and progeny, the child of that vamp, is formed. And of course, that bond just magically makes the progeny have to do whatever their sire tells them to. Typical abilities of a True Blood vampire are a lot of the typical abilities of any other vamp. Superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, and durability. Heightened senses, that of a typical animal, smell, hearing, night vision. Accelerated healing, sharp fangs, immunity to telepathy, immunity to disease, immortality, claws, ageless, and one thing that's different than lurks in the Buffyverse, flight. They give me a fucking break. It's hinted in the show that some vampires from this universe can fly, but not all of them. If I remember correctly, it was never stated which ones or why or what the logic behind that is, because there is no logic, because television. Now, glamoring, which is this show's version of the mind control to make a person do whatever the vamp tells them to. This is how most vamps on this show and other shows feed and get to run around and have donors without getting caught by the law. They simply glamour them to give up the wrist or the neck and to not react to the feeling of pain from the bite. They can also glamour them to patch themselves up when it's over and tell everybody you got bit by a bug or whatever the case. Or they can just also glamour them to forget that the feeding never happened. Also on this show, which is interesting, the vampires here have the ability to imitate the voice of anybody they hear, probably due to having an inhuman high sense of hearing and memory. But to be honest, I don't even know if that'd be considered an ability that vampires have, because there are a lot of humans out here who could do that in real life. Number 3, I kind of wanted to tap on this. Shadowhunters, or the clan of vampires that was on the show Shadowhunters. Like True Bloods, drinking a vamp's blood won't turn a human into a vamp. And the vampire venom, in other words their spit, has a relaxant property, which makes it easy for a person to get addicted to it, like drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. But like most drugs, it would also have an obvious negative effect on the body when it's abused. On a person's body, a human's body when it's abused. They would start looking strung out like a typical person addicted to a hard drug. So let's get into some of the characteristics. All night children, or vamps in this universe, only have fanged canines. Like the vamps in the Buffyverse, they can feed off of animal and human blood alike. Like True Blood vamps, they have a magical mental connection with those that they turn into vamps, as long as they have that vampire's blood in their veins. Also, they are also sterile. They can't have babies on their own. And they have some sort of weirdo connection with the grave that they are buried at when they were turned. They can feel when their gravesite has been disturbed. As far as turning somebody into a vamp goes, like True Bloods, in order to be turned in this show, you have to be killed with the vampire's blood in your system. Then you have to be buried so you can be reanimated while you're underground. Television? Abilities of night children vamps from this show are the same typical ones from the other shows. Superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, durability, heightened senses of a typical animal, accelerated heating, sharp fangs, immunity to telepathy, immunity to disease, immortality, claws, and being ageless. So, number 4, the Vampire Diaries / originals / legacies. In this universe, vampires are a human corpse magically taken over by the spirits of a dead person, usually one that resembles the person they once were. I have no idea what that means. Also in this universe, first vamps were created by witches using dark magic that was meant to be a curse. They were supposed to be cursing people, and that's what a vampire is. In other words, in this universe, vampires are supernatural beings and are just one of the many different supernatural beings on this show. They need to feed off of blood to survive, but like lurks, it doesn't have to be only human blood. It was later said on the show that vamps feed more on human blood because human blood is what keeps them immortal due to, I really don't feel like explaining the plot of the show. It also keeps their superpowers and abilities at its highest level, only if they're feeding on human blood. Vampires can also feed off of blood of a witch or blood of a werewolf when the werewolf is in his human form, when human blood is scarce. So, some of these characteristics of this universe. When in vamp mode, the blood vessels and the sclera, the whites of the eyes, pop, making the whites of the eyes look red, along with the natural eye color in the middle. And dark veins show heavily under or around the eyes. The canine teeth are where the fangs are, though in some people on this show, they had a double set of fangs, the laterals and the canines, while they were in vamp mode. Once turned into a vampire, any vampire in this universe can show their vamp mode or their vamp face at will. But it only appears for the first time when they get hungry and feed. Of course their teeth are razor sharp, but because of their jaw muscles, they are strong enough to bite through bone. They can also tear a person's limbs off by just using their mouth, like a shark or a crocodile. Heightened emotions. In this universe, once you become a vampire, you will feel emotions at a more heightened level than the average human. When they hate you to the highest degree. Like they will kill off your whole family, kids, babies, elderly people, and your kittens. As long as all those family members are connected to you in some way, that's their reason for the hate. When they love you, the vampire will love you more than any human would love you. This means they will kill anything that even comes close to thinking about threatening or harm any member of your family. Your kids, your baby, elderly people, and even your kittens. The switch. Vampires in this universe keep themselves from feeling too much emotional pain by switching off their humanity. This is how they keep themselves from feeling remorse or depressed or sad for any action they had to do, such as killing people to feed or killing people because it's fun. In other words, they turn themselves from being a bad guy into a good guy. It's been stated that when a vampire in this universe has their switch turned off, they're almost a completely different person. And they like the idea of not having to care or feel remorse from the world around them about the evil things that they do. They won't be afraid to do things they normally would think twice about. So basically, they're just not going to think about a good way to get things done. They'll just do them, no matter who it kills or who it hurts, whatever. They can also switch the humanity back on at will by concentrating to do so. But if a vampire in this universe doesn't want the humanity switched back on, it can be switched back on by somebody else, but that person has to be a loved one and or somebody really, really important to them. Rather, the vampire knows that person is important to them or not. That person would have to give them reason for feeling emotions again. And the reason has to be a reason that will benefit that vampire. The problem with this is, once they do it, all the emotions and remorse and sadness and guilt and heartbreak for all of the bad things they did or people they killed over the years, not to mention lives they destroyed, will come rushing back immediately. And this can cause the vampire to fall into instant depression. So much so, the vampire will want to kill themselves, or if this is done during the day, run right out into the sun at that moment, burning themselves to death. Next characteristic, the sire bond. The vampires in this universe have a magical mental connection to those they sire, just like the Shadowhunter vamps and the True Bloods. The difference here is the emotional bond between the sire and the new vamp has to be extremely strong for this to work, meaning they have to be really extremely in love, or they have to really, really hate the person, etc. But if that bond is strong, the new vamp would do anything they're told to do by their sire, no matter how they feel about the sire. They won't want to, but they'll go out of their way to do it. Almost like the vampire's ability to compel a person. And speaking of compulsion, just like glamoring with the True Bloods, vampires from this universe can also compel a human and or victim to doing what they want to do by looking them in the eyes and giving a command. When doing so, the pupils of their eyes dilate as they're given a command, seemingly forcing or keeping the human from being able to break contact with their eyes. Once the command is given, no matter what it is, the human will do it, without there needing to be any kind of sire bond in any way, shape, or form. Once the vampire has a good guy switched on, this is an easy way for them to feed without raising suspicion from anybody around them. They can compel a person to give them blood from their wrist, give them blood from their neck, and all sorts of other illegal and creepy activity. Then turn right around and compel the person to forget that it happened or forget that they even met that vampire. They can be killed by the typical vampire ways. Decaps, fire, sunlight, stake to the heart. The being invited into a home in order to enter it rules apply here as well. But unlike the lurk vamps, there's no invisible shield that blocks the vampires from going in. They can go inside a person's house without being invited, and once they do, they start to feel immense pain, and they start bleeding from the nose and the eyes and the ears, and or start to burn, and eventually death will follow soon afterwards. Now, here's an interesting characteristic, here's an interesting fact. The vampires from this universe have beating hearts that pump blood throughout their bodies just like humans, and they can't function without oxygen. One of the vampire's favorite way of killing another vampire in this universe is to literally punch through his chest or rip their heart out, which instantly kills the vampire. Now, suffocating them won't kill them, but it will make them fall unconscious just like it would a normal human. Okay, getting into some of the abilities. Same typical abilities. Superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflex. I'm tired of saying this. You tired of hearing it? Heightened senses, typical of the typical animal. Accelerated healing, sharp fangs, immunity from telepathy, immunity from disease. Claws, they're also ageless. Okay, number 5, Forever Night. Okay, so unfortunately for me, I guess, I wasn't turned to about 1995, 96, I don't know, it was like ages ago. And I wasn't interested in vampirism in any real way, nor this show. And this is around the time when the show first came out. So I knew nothing about it. I literally put up on social media, hey, give me a good show you people liked and used to watch. And the amount of people saying Forever Night kind of overrided everything else. So I decided to do some research on it, found a lot of stuff online, and Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is like God. So anyway, vampires in the Forever Night universe are not reanimated corpses, unlike some of the others that I mentioned earlier. Their heart beats a few times every 10 minutes, and as stated in one episode, no vampires turn into things such as bats or wolves or mist or fog. I like this show already. 2 episodes in this Forever Night series reveal that vampirism in this universe is to some degree a psychosomatic condition. Google it. Although vampires in this universe do suffer from being allergic to things like garlic, I love garlic, and they combust in the presence of holy objects or sunlight, vampires that have forgotten what they are due to suffering of physical or mental trauma are completely unaffected by these things. That makes perfect sense and is dumb as hell at the same exact time. Characteristics for, I don't know, television. Some characteristics for a Forever Night vamp are: there's no vamp mode or beast mode when angered or feeding or sad or trying to intimidate somebody. They always look as they did when they were human. They have a reflection and can be seen in mirrors. They can eat regular food if they choose to, but it doesn't help them stay alive or do any good for their body anymore. It literally just tastes good to them. They still have to drink blood regularly. When being turned, they are offered a choice to pass through the gateway to death or to turn back and become a vampire. In the Forever Night universe, a vampire who brought you across is called your master. I guess that's equivalent to a sire or... And a master who has brought across multiple people considers them their children. They die by the typical ways of killing vamps, pencil through the heart, beheading, sunlight, etc. A laboratory-created disease designed to counter HIV proved capable of infecting and killing vampires. Wow. Gold or green eyes at times. And we're going to stop there as far as characteristics go. Turning. Oh, now this is great. It was never directly shown or explained how a vamp turns someone. It was purposely left up in the air by the show's creators to allow fans to write their own stories and come up with their own ideas on how it happens and such. And I just read all that on Wikipedia, where anybody could change the story on how vamps turn people just for fun. Just like I'm about to do right now. Abilities include stereotypical abilities, yet again: superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, and durability, heightened senses like an animal, accelerated healing, sharp fangs, flight. Damn Superman vampire crap again. Immunity to telepathy, immunity to disease, immortality, and they stay ageless. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this, please click the like button. If you didn't enjoy this, please click the like button. And if you do click the like button, please click the subscribe button. What's your favorite vamp in TV? That's what I want to know. What's your favorite vampire from television? And I said television, not movies. Learn the difference. The difference in vampires and movies might be coming soon. Might be, depending on the reaction to this video. As Dracula once said, bye.